It's podcast. You're listening to Gorehead and the Wiener.
Oh, all right.
Hello.
Welcome to a classic Gorehead and the Wiener episode.
And our final installment of the Old People trilogy.
But yeah, so today we are talking about M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit, which was supposed to be his beautiful re-entry into cinema, but as we will discuss, not sure if he really stuck the landing on that one.
I honestly, because I watched it once before when I found out he actually someone gave him money to make another movie. I was like, well, I have to see this. Like, I got so frustrated with, was it After Earth? His last one, where they wouldn't even let him put his name on the poster because it was so terrible. And I turned that one off after about 15 minutes. It's really hard to watch Jaden Smith act.
Yeah. I did watch it fully at one point.
Oh, you watched the whole movie?
But it was when it came out, and I don't really remember what happened.
I just remember being so blown away. Again, the dialogue. M. Night Shyamalan's dialogue, like, confuses my brain or something. Because it's, like, the way he gets his characters to speak. They don't actually speak like a normal human being. Or react like a normal human being.
They don't. They really don't.
So, yeah. Stupid Jaden Smith. He, like, gets attacked by a group of baboons. And Will Smith tells us, like, don't attack them. You'll be fine if you don't attack them. First thing he does is pick up a rock and throw it at the alpha baboon.
Nice.
And, of course, it pisses them off. And his suit turns black, because I guess when he gets afraid, his suit turns black, because that helps him somehow. He's like, oh, something happened to my suit. I don't know what it is, but it's cool. It's like, did he just say, I don't know what's happening, but it's cool? Like, what the fuck would say that when they're about to get attacked by a fucking horde of baboons? So I rewound it to see if I misheard it, but I did not. It was awful.
Well, that's cool.
And I also found out baboons are weak to water, and if you go into a body of water, they will not follow you. At least according to M. Night Shyamalan's After Earth, because Jaden Smith goes into ankle-deep water, and that's it for the baboons. They're like, nah, man, we don't get our feet wet. We don't have shoes. We're not people.
We don't have shoes. Only people with shoes go in water.
Yeah, animals never go in water. It's scientifically proven.
And it's true, whenever I go to the pool, I arrive at the pool with no shoes, and then I put shoes on to go in the pool.
It's true. Everyone who goes in the pool puts their shoes on. You just look like a weirdo if you don't.
Yeah. Much easier to swim when you have laces. But anyways, we're talking...
heavy-weighted rubber on your feet. Just drag it down. Yeah, so, getting off topic down here. Sorry about that. It's my bad.
We are still talking about the same director, though, and this movie came out in 2015, which is weird. I remember it, I feel like it came out sooner than that.
Yeah, there's a few-year gap between, I think, that and After Earth, because that's when, like, I think, Steve Blumhouse, because that's when he went to, like, the Blumhouse company, and he's been making movies with them ever since. So I think Stephen Blum got to M. Night Shyamalan. It's like, hey, man, you know what? I think you could be a good filmmaker, but you gotta tone it down. Like, you gotta simplify your shit. And even in his attempt to make a grounded, simplified movie, it still feels like it's written by an alien.
He didn't simplify anything. He tried to do a simple subject matter, but he overcomplicated it.
I just wrote, like, okay, it's like, the horror is too unfocused. We have old people, mental illness, deadbeat dad problems, upset mom problem, tension between the children. You have other people coming in and out of the movie. Like, it's so disjointed as to what you should try to be focused on being scared of. You're scared of absolutely nothing, because it's like, is this supposed to be a drama movie where I feel sorry for these children and their shitty, like, upbringing, or is it about scary old people who go through, like, mental problems and they fall apart because of them?
I found out that it's supposed to be a horror comedy.
Oh, God damn it! There's supposed to be funny moments in that.
It's supposed to have like okay, so I was gonna wait to
It
mention
does have one of the
this.
funniest endings I've ever seen, which I will not talk about yet and spoil.
Yeah, but I wasn't gonna mention this yet until I started talking more about the summary. But I kind of wonder if it's similar to the situation with The Room, where the guy who Tommy Wiseau or Johnny was. Tommy Wiseau. Johnny's him in the movie. I
Yes,
always
Johnny.
mix them up. Johnny's
Hi,
in
Johnny.
the movie.
You're my favorite customer.
Exactly. Oh, hey, Dougie. Yeah, I wonder if it's like a Tommy Wiseau type of a situation where he makes something that's supposed to be like a drama and then later calls it a dark comedy.
Yeah.
Because people were laughing at it. So I wonder if it's like a situation like that where it was not supposed to be funny, or his idea of something being funny was adding in a random rapping kid, which doesn't create comedy.
Oh, anti-comedy.
But anyways,
he creates anti-comedy, child. Every
it's
scene...
not... It's not even cringe humor. It's just uncomfortable. Because at least cringe humor, you have to make something that will create someone to laugh. This is just like, can you stop it? You're not talented or good or funny.
I actually, I felt like I didn't, I felt embarrassed for the child every time he rapped, and I just didn't want to look at the movie. I felt bad. I was like, oh, Jesus, oh, I covered my face more when he was rapping than any point in the movie where it was supposed to be scary. I was just like, that kid, oh man, he's gonna be made fun of so much. I want to look at his IMDb record to see if he has any other movie credits after that, because Magic 8 Ball says not likely.
Yeah.
That's a joke, M. Night Shyamalan. Use that. Look at that.
It's a terrible joke, but it's better than anything he's done.
But it made you laugh because it's so shitty.
Exactly.
And that in and of itself
I wasn't
is
expecting
a joke.
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Magic 8 Ball says not likely.
Not likely.
No.
Burn from an 8-year-old Chris.
I look like I'm at a slam poetry session, so I'm just gonna snap at all your jokes.
You do have bongo drums that you could get.
I sold them. I know, I sold them. But yeah, so we can get into the actual podcast episode now, so I'll let you take it away with an intro if you have one prepared.
For Tad?
Prepared.
Oh, I thought you said for Tad, that was an abbreviation for the movie or something, 14.
No,
it's for Tad.
It's for Tad, like they say.
Could be a cool slang you picked up, Kids are saying it. But
all the Montreal folks are saying it.
Oh yeah, it's totally Tad. But yes, The Visit is M. Night Shyamalan's desperate attempt to get people to like him again by making a movie that is better than what he's made before, but not anything that could be considered a good movie. But if you followed his career, he set such a low bar for himself that you could enjoy this movie as an M. Night Shyamalan movie. But as a normal human being movie, it feels like an alien came from outer space, studied humanity for a few weeks, and just tried to write a script about what humans do on a daily basis. What could be a human struggle with their family members. And that's The Visit. Because it feels like four strangers, which I guess a pair of them are strangers, but they all talk to each other like they're from different planets. And they're so weird. The little girl talks like a 35-year-old pretentious art student. The little boy raps, like a little boy would rap. And the elderly lady acts like a little child if they had way too much sugar, and the elderly man just tries to do stuff that a farmer should do. There's just a scene where he throws bales of hay out of a barn for the entire sequence into the snow. Hay
Yep.
is used to feed animals inside of a barn. Why the hell would you throw dry hay that you've bundled up into the fucking snow? It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, when you get to the end of the movie, maybe they could justify it with the ending and what the characters are, but I don't know. It's there's a lot of overlooked plot points. Like nothing seems to connect. There's a lot of things I feel like M. Night felt was creepy or spooky, but he didn't know how to utilize it in a way that moved the story forward or served the plot or served any sort of purpose other than like, oh, old person at night, scary.
The
So
pacing in that movie is so
there's no
bad.
there's no pacing. It's like I think I remember telling you this while we were watching the movie, but it's I'll try to explain this the best way I can. We're both 3D animators, so we get this note all the time in animation when you're posing your shot out for the first time and you have all these poses that represent the shot or the acting sequence that you're doing. But if it's not timed out properly and everything is placed in the exact same amount of frames or seconds between
Timing.
each other, the timing is exactly the same. It's not going to represent like a nice, interesting shot. It's going to appear boring. It's not going to get the point you want across, and it's really not going to sell the emotion that you want in the shot. But if you vary up the timing to better represent the ebbs and the flows of the natural movement, then it's going to feel natural. It's going to feel like it's representing the emotion you're trying to get across. And it felt like in this movie, the timing, the pacing of everything was just like, but here's the thing that we should do, here's the thing that we should do, here's the thing. But there was like nothing that lets you take a breath, nothing that scares you, nothing that like, nothing fast, nothing slow, just everything happening at once
like,
for no reason.
And like almost every scene has a buildup of an expectation of something really bad happening, and it never does. There's just only the buildup in every horror shot in this movie. There's a buildup where almost something scary is going to happen, but M. Night thought that was the scary thing, so he just ends the scene. And so, like, I did a lot of comparing between this and the Taking of Deborah Logan, and just how they pace their nighttime scenes, the actions that they show within the nighttime scenes, and it's almost night and day. Like there's a gradual ramp up with every night scene in the haunting of possession of Deborah Logan, or taking of it, whatever the hell it is called. And there's this ramping up of extremeness that Deborah does, where she's getting more and more out of her own head and starting to do more extreme things. But in this, there is no thought put into a ramp up of madness. There's just, oh, well, this could happen, but then the next night isn't even as intense as the first night. So you then wonder, well, okay, what are you building towards? And then it doesn't feel like the movie's building to anything. And it just kind of like, all of a sudden, the end happens, and then the movie's over.
Yeah. I don't know why I kept thinking of, what am I thinking of? The, oh no, what's the now I'm forgetting what it's called. The horror movie games. I think I had already spoken to you about them.
Resident Evil?
Yeah, there we go. It's like, why? It begins with an R, and I can't figure it out.
Really spooky.
It's a really spooky game, but Resident Evil 7, I believe, when they're...
the Bayou people.
Like the Bayou people in the South. Like, I feel like the reason why that game feels so effective is because you start out feeling comfortable, and then the closer you approach to this creepy house, things become more uncomfortable. You're slowly discovering things for yourself. There's these long shots of you just like walking through a hallway with nothing happening. You might hear something, but you don't see it. and then you keep going and you keep going, and the last second something comes out and grabs you, but it's like that's kind of part of the point of the story of the game. Like there's a person that's infected with this shit that is trying to kill you, and it's like so many of the jump scares in this movie were not serving a purpose. It's like the old lady grabs the camera and yells in it and then like I don't know, moves on. Like it's
the first one is so lazy. It just shows like a pile of hay, and then the grandpa comes into frame from the screen left, and he's just holding an axe like this, but there's music going, and that's supposed to be scary. He's like, he's just standing there with it, like he's not even like walking towards her. He literally is just standing there, and the camera caught him in frame, and she's like, "Oh my god!" And then like the shot ends. It's like, oh shit.
That's funny.
You got me, M. Night.
That one didn't bother me as much as some of the other ones, but I will get into the summary. Or sorry, I have to get into the gore rating.
The gore rating.
Yes, so 20
brief.
minutes in and we've just started ranting about how much this movie is not our favorite movie.
I will say I will say I intentionally put this one at the end of the 3 movies because I wanted you to watch the two movies that I thought did a very good job at representing like elderly horror and the effectiveness that you can do with it while still not like being like making fun of the elderly. I think they do a good job of like just saying this is what happens to you eventually. Unfortunately, we're all fucked. It's all gonna happen to us, so you can be afraid of this. But The Visit handles it a little differently.
It is a bit different. So
it feels like they're just laughing at the elderly in The Visit compared to like understanding that we will all become elderly.
Like there's no reason to use old people in this movie. There's no plot device that that really says that they need to be elderly, because I know like in the Taking of Deborah Logan they use Alzheimer's for, I mean, the main reason it was an old person is because she's weak, and that's what the demon can possess, is a weakened immune system, and she's a person with Alzheimer's, so it makes sense it would take place in an older body. But in this one, it's like the things that these people do, it's sort of like it's seen as weird and creepy because they're old and they shouldn't be able to do some of these things. Like the old
grandpa
ladies
pushes
like,
a guy over.
I don't know. It's like,
they're like, he's so strong. It's like he just pushed a guy in the snow. I don't know if that makes him super strong.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like maybe they didn't. Maybe the fact that they're old is not really the point of the movie, but it's just I don't know.
It's used as an excuse to kind of explain away their bizarre behavior, because they say it quite a bit throughout the movie where it's like, oh, she's just, when you get older, that's what happens to elderly people. But they don't do a good job of like,
no.
Like, you can tell that M. Night didn't do any research into what happens to old people when their minds start to go.
Yeah, that's the thing because didn't work.
But compared to Taking of Deborah Logan, where she's like deteriorating and doing all these things, and she feels ashamed about it, and she doesn't know what's happening. And also there's the addition of all the hospital medical horror, which is in and of itself terrifying. But in this, you don't get any of the medical side of it, and it's only used to excuse them doing what kind of is goofy things. Like, oh, Nana stared at a well. That was spooky.
Yeah, but
it was an intense well-looking scene.
An intense well scene. But yeah, so I can give it a gore summary rating, and this is my first 5 out of 5 Gore Wieners, where 5 Gore Wieners could watch 100% of the movie.
You'll just be probably more confused than anything else.
You'd just be annoyed, Gory Wieners. You'd just be annoyed. The only gore in it, there's some stabbing, and you see dead bodies. That's the only gore.
Yeah. Like,
there's really not anything. There's not. No. There's nothing. There's some poop.
Incontinence.
Incontinence, the real horror of this movie. But I will get now into an overview of the film, and we can kind of just talk about the ridiculousness of it.
Oh boy.
And at the end, I think we could discuss more our overall thoughts of the three movies, and then
Yeah, that sounds good.
contrast
I mean,
and compare.
I'd be
'Cause,
curious
yeah,
to hear your your journey through the three
oh,
movies.
yeah, it's an interesting journey. Um, yeah, so this movie is supposed to be a found footage comedy horror movie, which
Oh.
I find fascinating that it's supposed to be a comedy horror, but here we are. And so basically,
Real light
this
on the comedy.
is so light. I don't think I laughed once.
Oh, I laughed a
Um,
lot at the end.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that's what they were going for.
I know. You were laughing a lot at the end. I do remember that. So there's
It's
two
why I
siblings.
remember the movie.
Yes. Siblings Becca and Tyler are going to visit their grandparents, whom they have never met before, because their mother had a huge falling out with the parents. We don't exactly understand why yet. We just know that she hasn't seen them in 15 years, and thus, like, the kids have never met them. Because I believe they are, like, 15 and 12 or
12?
something.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
Catherine Hahn plays the mom, and she is definitely the best actor in the movie.
She did
She's only
not
like
get
3
enough
scenes
screen
of it.
time.
She should have been in the movie way more, because that's the only time I'm like, oh my
But,
god, it
like,
feels like a real person is here.
but she also, it felt like her acting was bad, but only because the dialogue was bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yes,
the
the dialogue.
dialogue didn't do anything good for her. She was doing
And
her best with what there
yeah,
was, but it just doesn't feel natural. It's like stuff
you
you would
can't listen
never
to the
say.
words.
It's like stuff you'd read in a book. It's like the
Yeah.
moral of this story is.
Yes, they even
You
have
know?
that. God, they even wrap up the movie with that
With a moral like that, and
really
she says it like
cheesy.
that.
Oh god,
Yeah.
yeah. I would say that she's just a good enough actor that her body language sold it for me. So you
The
could tell
body
that she was
language, yeah.
uncomfortable, and thankfully, body language is more important than dialogue if you can do it right. So
Yeah.
it's like you can hopefully brush off some of that M. Night script.
Yeah.
At least ignore it. But yeah.
So yeah, the kids are going to the grandparents' house, and I guess the kids are planning to record a documentary about their experience, but this was not really explained that well. You just see them kind of filming, and it's mostly the daughter that's filming.
Yeah, well, oh god, her character trait is that she wants to be a film student. So she just constantly throughout the movie is talking about like story structure and character. She calls her mom like a classic narrative character looking for an elixir. Like who the fuck says that about their mom? Like, oh, that was a classic narrative character. She's always blah blah blah. And it's like, and then she's talking about her like her directing process and how it's like, I'm gonna put in this music and it's gonna be abstract and cliche on purpose. I'm like, oh, this is really great to listen to.
That is a
Movie
thing.
theory.
That's a thing a 15-year-old says, and
Yeah.
I too was a 15-year-old that filmed a bunch of shit with my friends, but the stuff I was doing was like, oh, let's put this in. It's so stupid, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah, you
stupid
generally make goofy
editing.
stuff that you'd find funny to yourself.
Yes, and we would put in, I'd edit the shit out of it so it looked super stupid. Put in weird sound effects. We'd make our voices sound like chipmunks or something, and we'd think it's hilarious because we're
You're just
15
doing
or
it to make
13
yourself
or whatever.
laugh.
Yeah, it's great.
It's having a good
But
time.
I don't know. I just don't picture a 15-year-old having this random film knowledge and putting stuff in to be ironic, but it's about their grandparents.
She
I
talks
don't
too
know.
oddly. She talks like with too much movie knowledge for a 15-year-old. Like
Yeah.
she's going to be like, unless she's like little Steven Spielberg, most 15-year-olds I don't think would have that level of kind of like understanding of how a movie is shot. Like just being a 15-year-old. Like,
It's
but
like
who
she
knows?
needs she needs more character development to
That
have
is
the
her character.
audience, because we don't believe that as that being her character. It's like we need something to kind of grasp onto to understand, okay, maybe she's a little bit more attuned to film techniques, but it's also not really necessary for the story.
Or
so
here you go. If you want to make a movie about mental illness and how it affects people and how scary that is, make her be on the spectrum so that like movie filmmaking is how she communicates with life, and she'll like freak out if she doesn't have a camera in front of her. It gives a good excuse as to why you need to have a camera in the goddamn shot all the time filming everything, because it's like her line is safety blanket, and she talks a little weird because she's so hyper focused on learning how to be a director, and that would make it believable. But she is just a normal girl that puts on her makeup every morning and just seems to talk about boys like every other girl, and doesn't seem to like have any, other than just saying random movie, like, I guess, like, mumbo jumbo. It's not really like she's a character. She is only just saying movie stuff and then talking about making her documentary, and that is
yeah,
her entire existence. That's her entire meaning for being.
that would be that would have made the movie a lot better, I think, if, like you said, if she was on the spectrum where she had some reason where the camera was like her security blanket and she had to
Yeah.
have that around her at all times. Um, or my note was like, okay, if they're filming a documentary, give a reason to film a documentary. Maybe it's a class project and you have to film something. And
They
then
do give a reason near the end, and it's super stupid.
and it's super dumb. But like,
well, yeah, it's terrible. We get to that.
Just give some sort of a reason, and then also have them film it like they're kids. Like,
yes,
don't
yes.
if you're scared, drop the camera and run, and the camera can land in a place where it sees the feet running away or something. Like.
Yeah.
Don't have characters turn the camera at themselves and look scared at the camera when they're scared. And it's like, I don't know. It was. And then there's random establishing shots that are really beautiful, but then it just cuts to a random, somewhat poorly shot camcorded video, but it's clearly just someone pretending that it's kind of bad, but they still have to get all the stuff in the shot. It's like, no. No,
it's
like
staged properly. No,
don't stage it. It's like if something is a found footage film, it's gonna be messy and it's
you
kind
have
of
to have that believable
plot driven.
shittiness. Yeah.
Yeah, it's plot driven. It's not like staged every single time. I don't know. Anyways, there's just so many things that bugged me about the making of this movie, and I think it had potential, but there's just so much that was done incorrectly. And
honestly, like, I think if M. Night just didn't write anything he directed, if he just directed stuff, I think he could like generate a good movie if someone else.
He has a good eye. Yeah.
The script. Yeah, he's like a talented filmmaker. He's not like an idiot. He made the goddamn Sixth Sense that blew up the world, and then he fell from the heavens after that.
I know. I think the issue is his writing, because his cinematography is beautiful. It's and I don't know how he is as a director, but maybe if he had someone else's script, because clearly he did The Sixth Sense, and that was amazing. And even Signs was pretty good.
Signs was pretty decent. It just got pretty weird once he hit the village, all the way to The Happening, and then After Earth, and now it's getting weird again with the old movie.
Yeah.
But we'll see what the future has in store for.
I didn't hate The Village, but I have to rewatch The Village.
I never watched it, but after I heard the twist in it, I was like, no.
Oh, I didn't hate it.
I just heard the twist sounded really dumb. Maybe the movie itself is entertaining enough.
It was advertised. It was advertised incorrectly as a creature movie, like a scary creature movie, and that's not what it is. But back to The Visit. So they get to the grandparents' house, and the mom is away on like some vacation with her boyfriend, apparently.
Yeah, because she's like, her husband left her. That's kind of part of the drama. Is like she met her husband and decided to leave with her husband from the mom and dad, and that's kind of what generated the tension between the parents and her. And so apparently the grandparents reached out and said, hey, we want to see our grandkids. We've never met them before. How about they come out for a week? And this is where the first major like plot hole in the movie comes, because you would think, she mentions that they have a website where she saw like they do like a therapy counseling session. Like, wouldn't Catherine Hahn show her kids a photo of her parents at some point before she left, just so the kids would know who the fuck to look for at a train station when they're there by themselves? Like, that would literally end the whole movie before it started. Just
No.
why wouldn't they show up one fucking picture? One picture.
She's so mad at them that
You can't
she
look upon them.
refuses to keep any memories of her parents from anywhere.
Or even the children may have a curiosity to try to Google them themselves because they're so interested in meeting these grandparents that they've never seen before. Where's their goddamn childlike curiosity?
Yeah, that's true. I feel like if I had never met my grandparents, then I would be curious, but
not in this
I don't
movie.
know.
There's no time for
So they get to the grandparents. They live at like a farmhouse, and as soon as they get there, they're given these very strange rules of like, don't go in the basement, it's moldy, and bedtime is strictly at 9:30, and you cannot leave your room for any reason, basically.
Yeah.
That's most of it. And
oh yeah, because they treat mental illness like you're a werewolf or a vampire. Like, mental illness only comes out at night.
Because when you realize later on in the movie what these people, who they like, we kind of already alluded to this, so full-on spoiler warning. But like, once you figure out who these people actually are, it is more offensive, and it's like, what the fuck? Why are you making them do stuff like this at night? It doesn't explain any rules other than like, oh, they're just kind of crazy.
But they can also seem to like dial up and dial down how crazy they want to be. Like, there's periods
after
where they
9:30 they go totally nuts, and it's not
once
explained.
The moon comes out. I'm gonna go into the barn and polish my shotgun, like, in the middle of the night.
They were setting it up to be like this supernatural element, and it wasn't. It wasn't at all. They're just crazy, I guess.
Yeah, they're just crazy, and they only manifest it at night. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And if they know that they're gonna be that crazy at night, why wouldn't they lock themselves in a room because the plot of the movie is that they're pretending to be their grandparents so that they can have this experience that they ever had. So if I knew that I'm trying to pretend to be somebody else and I went psycho after 9:30 at night, I would just like lock myself in a room away from the children so they don't start thinking I'm a psychopath, because they have enough foresight to make these rules so the children will hopefully avoid them, but not smart enough to really like capitalize on it.
Yeah, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So
it's almost like he didn't think about it very deeply.
Oh, it's like they didn't really think about what plot holes were, and continuity, and
story structure,
character, some things, just some minor issues here and there. So like, the grandparents
barn in the snow.
The grandparents are kind of getting weirder and weirder, and one night Becca is hungry for a snack, and she decides to go downstairs after 9:30. So of course she brings her camera with her, and she just sneaks down the hallway, and it could have been a creepy moment, but there's no tension because she's not really like creeping. She's kind of just like walking casually down the stairs, and then the camera just pans over and we see the old lady projectile vomiting, and then she's like, oh wow, and then she runs back up to the room, and she's like, wow, she was vomiting down there. That's kind of what it felt like.
Wouldn't you go and see if she's okay, if at this point you think she's your grandmother and you've just seen her throw up all over the floor? Like, when you'd be like, oh, grandma, You just puked everywhere. You want
Grandmama.
some help? Not like, oh my god, you're a horrible monster. Like, they don't know that they're crazy yet, so she's just an asshole. And elderly
Giant
shaming.
asshole. Yeah. Yeah, they are elderly shaming.
Mm-hmm. I think this movie has a bit of elderly shaming.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so she sees grand projectile vomiting, and oh yeah, I wrote their style of filming in quotation marks is so forced it doesn't feel organic in any way. And yeah, that is kind of what that scene felt like. It felt very forced. It felt like they were forcing it to be scary. Like it felt very staged.
Mm-hmm. And if you were a child and you were scared, you wouldn't bring your camera with you to like block one of your hands and maybe your vision as well, so you can get a shot of something. You would be like knife in one hand and like getting ready to like throw a fist with the other if you actually think you're in danger. You're not gonna bring your goddamn camera with you. Who gives a shit? Like,
I know, right?
it's the middle of the night. You go pee. It's like, oh, I'm gonna film this. Like, go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. This has to be in the documentary. I'm a true filmmaker.
Ooh, so unique. And then the next major scene is the next day, and the kids are playing hide and seek under the house.
Oh God, yeah, I wrote that.
Why? Why?
Yes. Why the fuck would a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old siblings play hide and seek under the house together? And the little kid is so jazzed about it. He's like, oh, I found a sweet spot where we could play hide and seek together. And the older sister's just so jazzed too. He's like, yeah, this is where Mom used to play hide and seek. Let's play. It's so bad. If
I
they
really
were 5
don't
and
get
6, it would make more sense.
Yeah, if they're 5 and 6, then yeah, 5 and 6-year-olds will spontaneously go and play hide and seek. But
yeah, I fucking loved hide and seek when I was a kid.
It was great. It was I could find a place to hide and stay there forever.
Emma was always the best at hide and seek. No one found her.
Just ran away.
You're like super dedicated, stay out after hours.
It's been 15 years and I've stayed here since I was 5.
Set up. You're a really great survivalist.
I'm like a homeless person.
Nobody found me. I played hide and seek 15 years ago.
A homeless person in like one of the towns on the outskirts of my hometown. I just ran away to a different location and stayed there for the rest of my life, waiting for my sister to come find me.
They never did. But you died knowing you were the sickest hide and seek player. You're like, yeah. I won!
70 years and counting.
I regret nothing.
I regret nothing. But yeah, so they go to what is like the underside of the house, because the house is on
like on stilts.
On stilts. So there's all this empty space
crawl space.
It's
one of those
underneath
shitty
the
crawl
house.
Spaces where it's not in your house, it's underneath your house, so it's just all dirt.
Yeah, and my first thought with all of these things is like, don't go in there. There's gonna be lots of spiders and spider webs.
Shitload of cobwebs.
Nasty shit in there. Probably like maybe a dead rat or two.
Yeah, because
you don't
when I was a kid,
there.
The only time I ever went under one of those sketchy crawl spaces, I found a giant pile of wood and stepped on a nail that went through my foot. So that was my only experience with those stupid crawl spaces. So fuck those places. That's what you're gonna get, is a tetanus shot.
Yeah, those places have nothing good. And in this case, there also was nothing good, because they were crawling and playing hide and seek with their stupid camera. And
again, why the fuck would you have your camera for this part? Like, how does she mentally think that this is going to make it into her documentary? Like, where she says at the beginning of the movie she wants to be an Oscar-winning director, and so why the fuck would you? Yeah, good luck. Nowhere to go but up, kid.
Yeah, that's true. But so they're filming this, and then you just hear like a like. It's like, oh,
giggling. Light elderly giggling.
Light elderly giggling.
Like, that's not scary. I get why people think it might be scary, but she's not possessed by a demon. She's just an elderly person who's giggling. Like, again, M. Night Shyamalan thinks that they're possessed by demons, but they're just elderly people.
The giggling, it's like I picture it being creepy in something like The Exorcist.
Yes, if she's crawling on the ceiling or her head's flipped the wrong way, or she's like a contortionist, it's like bending her back and you hear broken bones and shit happening, that would be scary if she was laughing during that. Because that is a contrast to the horrible pain she should be in, not playing hide and seek with you. Like, it looks like she's just genuinely having fun.
It does. It did. It just looked like she was having a good time.
She has a tickle fight with the kid. She's and he's like freaking out and screaming, and it's like, she's just tickling you, man. It's like, it's, again, you still think it's your grandma. It's not that scary.
And it's like, this whole thing could have very easily been set up into something that was creepy, but again, set it up. Like, don't play hide and seek. Maybe you lose something under there and you have to go under and you have to get it, and it's
and they don't want to go under there.
No, it's nighttime. You have to use a flashlight, so you have very limited visibility, so then the flashlight can like move over, and it's, you see like the edge of like someone's foot like going in a different direction. Well, you're like, oh,
and
fuck.
Again, use the light from the camera, the flashlight from the camera, so it then sets up a reason to have the fucking thing again, because it's the only flashlight you have, and you're looking around with it, because if you don't have the camera, you can't see anything. Or just use night vision if you really have to. Like, that would work fine, too.
Again, yeah, it's
anything but doing it in the middle of the day.
The middle of, it's not scary, and it's just, there's no reason to. Again, this is one of the main things, and they use this in a lot of the promotional material, too, was this hide and go seek thing with the granny trying to make this creepy situation out of nothing. Like, there's...
I think she says ooh with the camera.
Yeah, ooh. But it was, again, one of those things that I feel like M. Night Shyamalan felt like it was creepy in theory, but he didn't know how to add it in for it to make sense. So it was just a thing that kids like to do. And there was no point to it. So that happened.
Yeah, like,
I feel like
have them see one of the elderly people come out from underneath, and they have like they put a sketchy bag under there or something that they want to investigate. Anything, just something to motivate them to actually go down there and actually for it to be tense and not a game of rolling hide and seek.
And the next scene we see is, I can't remember if it's the same day or not, but Tyler, the kid who up to this point has been spontaneously rapping, and it's been very uncomfortable and it's been terrible.
Oh, all the rapping. I have a whole little written section on the rapping.
Perfect.
It's so terrible.
But he's filming just random stuff in the farmyards, and he sees the shed and he goes in there, and then he finds a wheelbarrow full of poopy diapers. And it scares the shit out of him.
Yeah, it smells like shit here. Oh! They even use the lame joke in the movies because he says it scares the shit out of him. And it's like, this still smells like shit here.
So stupid. So,
and that's the spooky scene. And then it's funny because for whatever reason, it's always like the opposite grandparent explaining the other crazy person's behaviors. It's like they're like a tag team.
Yeah, that's true.
The grandpa describes the puking to the daughter, and then the grandma describes all the diapers to the grandpa, how he, like, takes dirty diapers into the barn, and then when he has enough of his dirty diapers, he goes and burns them in a field. One, that's terrible for the environment, and two, that would smell very, very terrible, burning a giant pile of elderly diapers. Because apparently he poops so much that he has amassed a mound of them. They've only been there a few days. He must have to change his underwear multiple times a day, like a baby, to accumulate that massive pile of underwear, depends.
Yeah, how long have they been there?
He must just be pooping constantly. Yeah, if you think about the size of the pile, for how long they've been there. Also, he's sane enough to go into town and buy elderly diapers and then come back and hide them out in the shed.
That's the next thing so the next scene is they go into town, and then old Pop attacks a random dude on the street.
Yeah, he's
And
looking at me.
after this point, this is when the kids decide that they're making this documentary now to collect evidence and solve a mystery as to why the grandparents are so fucking weird.
Oh, well, okay, I don't know if it's before or after it, but this is when the girl has one of her little pretentious movie monologues, and she talks about her mom being a classic narrative character and needing
Oh.
an elixir to carry on, and without it, her life will not be able to continue. So her goal with this masterpiece she's crafting is to find an elixir for her mother so that she can be happy again. And the end of the movie, the children actually are motivated to go back in the house and film shit, even though they know they're psycho, because they think they're finding their mom an elixir. They both say that. They're the other one's like, we gotta find the elixir for mom. And then at the end of the movie, the kid's like, did you get the elixir? He's like, yeah. They say it too many times.
I do remember that vaguely, but I completely forgot that was part of the
pointless.
movie.
Yeah, they brush over it so, like, what the fuck does that even mean? I don't know what an elixir actually means. It's like an item you get in Final Fantasy. That's the only thing I know about it.
It's a thing you say when you're a kid because it's like, it sounds like a cool potion that will, I don't know, solve your life issues or make you young forever.
Yeah, so I guess that was also their point in making this stupid movie, why they just hold onto the camera for even though it's threatening their own lives.
Yeah. And you'll notice as we're describing this, it feels like a bunch of disjointed scenes, but that is the movie. That's the movie. There's not a whole lot tying much together here. It's a very thin string that's kind of woven through everything, and it's pretty loose, but
and there's so many boring scenes too. Like there's the interview with the boy who, when the sister's interviewing him, he goes, it lasts 2.5 minutes long, and it's just him talking about playing in like a pee-wee football game and how he froze up, and he describes into nauseating detail about all the football positions, and even the sister comments on how boring it is, but he keeps talking about it. It's like, that's one of my greatest pet peeves about a movie, when a movie points out that something that it knows is annoying, but then keeps it in the movie. It's like, you're aware that this sucks, but you're just too lazy to make something better. Like, it lasts so long. I played football for 10 years, and I was bored to shit out of this. I was like, I even know what he's talking about. I want to punch him in the face. Like, Jesus. And then it's immediately followed up by another 2.5 minute scene with the sister where she's sitting in a wooden chair with like this artistic shot of like a long driveway with trees and the snow, and it's just like this slow zooming in shot where the kid goes on this like monologue about how her sister can't look in the mirror, and he watches her get ready in the morning, and when he watches her, she doesn't look at the mirror. When she brushes her teeth, she just looks down, and he's like, look, your sweater's inside out. Did you even know that because you didn't look at the mirror? I'm like, if you even don't look at a mirror, I can tell if my fucking shirt's inside out. Like, I can still look at myself. Like, and then so it lasts for 2.5 minutes, and then the next scene cuts, and she's just like crying, and then talking about how sad she is that her dad's gone. And it's like, what are we supposed to give a shit about in this movie?
There's too much. There's way too many things happening, and none of them are impactful. So these emotional scenes that could have been impactful just aren't, because they're introduced separately, and then you go to another thing, and then that's introduced separately, and you have all these things introduced at the same time, basically, and so you're kind of like, okay, basically give a shit about nothing, I guess, is the answer, because there's too many things being thrown at my face, and nothing is being followed through. Nothing has been, there's no follow through with any of these points, I guess.
No, there's no satisfying ending really to any point in the story. Like, none of it. Most of the characters don't even seem to grow from it. Like, that was another weird thing about, they really pressed at the beginning of the movie how because of the dad leaving, it fucked up the son, and he had to go to therapy and all of this, and that's why he raps, which, oh god, someone should tell him to do something different. I don't want to it's like, it's perfectly fine if you have a lisp, but I don't think rapping is the best avenue to go down if you have a really thick lisp. Like, it doesn't flow as nicely. It doesn't sound like Eminem when he's just like spitting hot fire and like, there's all these like pauses and delays in it, and it's just, whoever wrote that rap just doesn't understand how to write a rap, or the kid couldn't perform it effectively. And
I feel
no
like
offense to him, the wonderful little child with a lisp, but just maybe rapping shouldn't be your future career.
And I feel like rapping with a lisp could work, but rapping in itself is hard as fuck to do. So if you're gonna have a lisp and also rap, you're gonna have to be really good. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not easy to be good at rapping, rhyming, and rhythm, and clever word, like, sentence structure.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you're 12, you're probably not going to have the
Yeah,
vocabulary and repertoire to like
kind
do
of
that.
shooting yourself in the foot at this point. If you're,
Unless he really loves it. Really,
you know
really
what?
loves it.
If he keeps practicing, he might get to that point. But we are just witnessing him at not his peak performance at this point in his life.
Yeah. The Visit 2 will be about his rap career and his sister visiting him as he's super successful.
Yeah.
I got rid of the lisp you made fun of, asshole.
The first rapper that is super successful and he has a lisp and it's like part of his charm of his like rapping. That would be amazing if that.
I would watch The Visit too if that was, and it's the sister visiting him and they haven't seen each other in a long time because she always made fun of his lisp.
Oh, I would love that so much. I would love to see it's like a 8 Mile, but it's with a rapper with a lisp. And
he doesn't really go through that many hardships. Like, his life's pretty easy. It's just kind of difficult for him to get a rap career.
It's only that he has a lisp.
Yeah, his personal life is perfectly fine.
Yeah, no, he's doing great. He's got an amazing life, good friends. He's in a healthy relationship.
Yeah, he has like a loving family. Just, that lisp.
He just has a lisp. So wholesome. I love it. So the next scene we have is the blueberry cobbler lady, which only pops up again at the end for some reason.
Oh my god, that's super dumb too. There's also another person that visits before that. He's like a guy that works. Apparently the only people that come to visit them are people that work at the insane asylum, and they always just miss them. They're like, oh, they just went for a walk. That's the excuse both times. Like, they didn't even try to change it. It's like, that's so lazy.
So the first guy was from the insane asylum, and if the kids say that they just went for a walk, wouldn't you think they'd be like, oh fuck, they're still here? We need to find them.
I don't even understand, because they just hint at like, oh, well, I want to talk to your grandparents because they like gossip, and if there's some hot news at the insane asylum. And then the attic lady also says that. It's like, oh yeah, I was in rehab and I just wanted to come by so I could tell your grandparents about the hot gossip that's going on at the insane asylum. But the kids aren't like, hey, what is the hot gossip over at an insane asylum? I bet that shit would be pretty interesting, because I bet weird stuff happens at an insane asylum. But they're just like, cool, we don't give a shit. We're going to go back to filming our documentary.
Oh, yeah. So she visits, and she just seems terrified and leaves. She's holding a blueberry cobbler.
Be parried.
Yeah,
she's terrified of children.
And, yeah, so at this point, I'm pretty sure, Tyler thinks there's some weird shit going on at nighttime with old Granny. So he decides to leave the camera out in the living room overnight.
Oh, but that flares an entire argument about the girl's artistic integrity and how it's not it's not ethical to film somebody when they're not aware of it. And as a filmmaker, she can't film them at night because it's unethical, and all of her morals and and artistic integrity will be thrown out the window if she records 2 possibly violent elderly people at night. What a bullshit excuse. It's like, we can't do it. And they have to wait like 2 more nights before they actually do it, which is super stupid. And at this point, the elderly woman has been completely naked, clawing at a door at night. And that was still, it's like, no, we gotta keep the artistic integrity.
Yeah. It's like, fuck your artistic integrity. I think these people might murder you.
Yeah, I'm calling the police. Like, Jesus.
I'm leaving. yeah, something.
Is your ID?
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so they do end up leaving the camera in the living room.
Leads to the next spooky scene.
Which is basically the grandma is just like crawling around and she sees the camera and just yells at it.
And like puts her face right in front of it and then grabs it again and takes it and then grabs a knife from the kitchen and like walks upstairs and starts like knocking on the door. But
yeah, apparently she's trying to break into their room with a knife.
But she doesn't try very hard.
No, she's just kind of like scraping at the door with the knife, and the kids are like, "Oh, she's trying to break in." It's like,
but it like lasts for like 12 seconds, and then it just cuts to morning, and you're like, "What the?
What happened? Are they dead now?"
It's like there's no tension in that scene. It's like I guess she walked in front of the camera. Like, how did you even see it? It's nighttime. Do crazy people have really good night vision? The elderly are known for their amazing vision, especially at night. That's why so many elderly people drive only at night, because their vision gets better.
Yeah, totally. They only see in night vision. That's actually
it's an unknown fact about elderly people.
A lot of people don't know this, but actually cataracts is the first start of you starting to gain your night vision capabilities. So you just wait. When you get over 70, you actually become nocturnal. And then you slowly turn into kind of a vampire. And
hence the nighttime activities.
Yeah. And the nighttime activities. Some old people just turn into cats. So if you own a cat, you actually own an old lady or a man.
That's why they're so grumpy. That's why cats are always so pissy. It's because they're actually just elderly people.
They've lived a full-ass life as a human, and now they're a cat.
Yeah, so that's why it's in, like, cat years, because they don't want to live that long once they're in their cat form. So then they just only live, like 15, 20 more years, and then who knows what happens to them after that.
It's like a blink of an eye when you're that old.
They just turn into sand.
Yeah.
It's like the end of Indiana Jones when he picks the wrong grail.
Yeah. That scene scarred the shit out of me as a child.
Yeah, that scene was scary as shit. Way scarier than anything in The Visit.
100%. And someone asked me randomly what the scariest thing was, like the first thing I saw that scared me. It's that scene. Because I think 8 years old or something. And my cousins were watching it, and they're like 10 plus years older than me. So I went into the basement and they're watching, and I get there right at that scene, and they're all like, "Emma, close your eyes!" But it was too late, and I'm just like, just this little 8-year-old in the basement, like, with all these like 16,
for the first time.
18-year-olds. Yeah. Oh.
It's like your face actually looked like the guy's face in the movie.
Yeah, my eyes were melting.
Yeah.
I guess my face is melting around my eyes, because that's kind of what happened in that scene. So anyways, very different from this movie.
Yes, much scarier. Steven Spielberg, good job. M. Night Shyamalan,
bad job, Steve. Yeah, maybe you could teach M. Night a few things.
Be more like Steve. Get a shirt that says that.
Be more like Steve. I mean, honestly, it's really just his script writing that needs some changes.
More like his hubris, because I don't think Steven Spielberg writes his own stuff. He knows sticking his lane.
He knows. Don't do everything. Do the thing you're good at. I am not a good script writer. I am not.
You're good at,
I know I would be much better at editing, maybe directing, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
like.
Cinematography.
But I know at
you
least
can wrap
better.
your mind around it.
I can wrap my mind around it. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I know I can do that versus script writing. That is not my forte. Not good with words. Which is why I am on a podcast.
Exactly. Screw the written word. It's obsolete
I just
now.
say my words.
Yes.
Great.
It's so much easier. So they say, right?
Yeah.
When you learn a new language, you can speak it but not write it.
Well, I can't do either of those, so that's cool.
One day, that kid will get rid of his lisp and you'll learn how to speak French.
One day. One day. So, yeah, that happens. And then the next morning, the kids call mom to come and get them. But, whoops, they find out that that's not actually their grandparents. Like, it took them this long to figure that out.
Yeah, after all the insane shit that they've talked about.
Yeah.
Like, the old guy goes on this weird, like, monologue, which also makes no sense about, which I guess was just supposed to be scary because it's an elderly person saying it. He's talking about how he worked at this, like, factory at night and he saw, like, a white light with yellow eyes and the white light would talk to him and he tried to tell other people about it, but that got him fired from the factory. And that was the end of the scene. And then at the end of the movie, he tells the girl, I told you that the white light wasn't real, but it is real. Big scares. But they do it in a basement in the dark, so there's that. It's a dark basement when he says it. It's very scary.
Very scary.
And I think he dramatically then reaches his arm at the camera. It goes like that.
Ooh.
Through a shelf. That is the payoff. Yeah, he reaches at her through a shelf while telling her, it's like, did you know the lights were real? The yellow eyes are real. I can hear them. And that was the payoff of that amazing, skillful setup. Also, we have to talk about the oven scenes, which are supposed to be really tense. There are two of them.
Stupid.
And they don't. Again, there's no payoff. There are only setup. These scenes are setting something up that you will never see. It's just like,
there's a lot of that. There is so much of this, especially with the camera framing, where the camera will literally just focus on something in the scene that is not used once. It's just because the autofocus focused on a frying pan in the foreground and we're gonna cut back to it 1,000,000 times, but nothing happens with it.
You're just waiting.
Like that is a really lazy way to set something up, and they didn't even use it.
No. It's just like the minimum amount of effort. Like either you make it grungy and dirty, where it's like either maybe the whole thing's out of focus, or you know what, you actually just focus the camera properly, and most people aren't even gonna fucking think about it. But they will focus on what you focus on. And if you focus on a goddamn frying pan in the foreground, you want something to happen with that frying pan. Also, how the hell is that lady such a good goddamn cook? She makes breakfast, lunch, and dinner for them every day while still being batshit crazy.
Yep.
She made some cheddar biscuits.
They bought everything from Sobeys or IGA. I'm just naming Canadian grocery stores.
Would there be a manhunt out for these elderly, escaped, violent people?
Oh no, I mean the crew for the people filming the movie.
For filming the movie.
Like the people that have set decorated these shots just went to a grocery store.
And bought a bunch of shit.
And bought shit. So they're just like, oh, she can cook stuff.
Look at that. I guess the kids have to eat something or it might get weird.
Yeah, you don't need to say that she's cooking food for them. That's fine. I guess they're just
yeah.
trying to like fool the audience that she's like a real grandma, so she can cook stuff.
Yeah, I just don't understand how she has the time in between being like insane.
I don't know how she has the time.
I feel like insanity would take up a lot of my time. Like my hobbies would really drop off once I went nuts.
I think that normally would be your priority if you don't have mental clarity in your life.
Yeah. I don't remember my name. Let's go make some biscuits.
I do remember the best cheddar biscuit recipe, though. So let's do that.
Yeah, God. It's like, I may be losing my mind, but I can at least enjoy these delicious cheddar biscuits.
Perfect. And I can make a beautiful breakfast every morning. But
Yeah,
I
so
don't know if my name is Gertrude or Beatrice.
I sometimes walk around with my bum hanging out. That's spooky, right? After the crawl space scene,
Spooky.
she just stands up
Spooky
and
butts.
her dress is messy, and you just see one of her butt cheeks as she walks
Yep.
up the stairs. Like, that's not
Oh, wow.
scary. It's just kind of like unfortunate if you don't think she's actually crazy. It's like, she's just old. She might not notice. The kids are
Yeah.
just like, oh,
Oh, a butt.
it's Papa
That
Butt.
that's part of the comedy, Chris.
Oh God, dude. The comedy.
The butt.
Well, and the
So
girl like turns the camera towards her and giggles right at camera. So I guess it was supposed to be funny.
it's supposed to be funny. But yeah, so we're almost at the end of the movie. So they okay, so the kids now know that the grandparents aren't their grandparents. And then they somehow get like roped into playing this Yahtzee game that goes nowhere.
This is another weird plot hole thing because it's daytime, like 1 or 2 in the afternoon when they call their mom. They're like, Mom, you got to pick us up now. Things are getting weird. And then they find out, oh, those aren't the right people. She's like, phones up the police while on the laptop. It's like, oh, no one's answering at the fucking police station. And she's like, oh, it's a small town. I guess cops don't answer phones there. She's like, I'll keep phoning as I drive towards the house. It then transitions from day to complete nighttime. So there has to have at least been a window of like 5 to 6 hours where Catherine Hahn has been phoning the police for 5 hours and she didn't get a hold of them the entire time. But yet at the end of the movie, Catherine Hahn arrives at the exact same time as the goddamn police. Why?
Well, it is winter though, and it gets dark at like 4 o'clock in winter time. So
maybe it's like a few
maybe only
hours.
like 3 hours.
But the kids also make a mentioning of saying, "Oh, it's getting really late. We should go to bed soon." So it could be at least 9 o'clock, let's say, like right before their bedtime,
that's true.
because they turn into vampire crazy people at the end.
At 9:30. So, yeah, that's right.
So
that's right.
It must be past 9:30.
Yeah,
somewhat.
So the grandma gets all crazy with these sugar cookies at like I'm assuming it's 9:30. She just ravagely eats these sugar cookies and she goes into the camera, which is supposed to just be like the girl filming, and she's just ravagely eating these cookies, and Becca just kind of like runs away.
Oh, because she first has this bizarre argument with the grandpa about who owns the rights to Yahtzee and how, because he says it's Hasbro, but then she says it's Fisher Price, I don't know, some other company. It's like, oh no, it used to be owned by Hasbro, but now it's owned by this company. I'm like, who the fuck knows this much about Yahtzee? You're 15.
Like, she just knows all the things. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't play Yahtzee till I was in my 20s. It's like, who gives a shit about Yahtzee?
Yeah. But she goes into the basement for some reason. I don't really remember why.
I think they finally just want to like find out what's in there because they thought it was black mold, but they wanted to see if something, I guess, spooky was in there. Some evidence, maybe, to...
Well, they do find evidence because they find their grandparents in a dumpster. Oh, no. And they find, like, the clothing from the insane asylum that these old people took off, and it's in the dumpster now. And then that's when the old dude comes down. They should have showed those
clothes earlier. Like, they should have showed, like pants or something hanging around. Like, just something to, like, give us something instead of just showing it all at once at the end. Like, you could have peppered that stuff in throughout.
Yeah.
And at least it could have given us a bit of tension.
Something, because there's no tension throughout this whole movie. It's very frustrating.
They don't even really hurt the children at any point. They're just crazy. They're just crawling around on the floor and scraping walls. Like, they're not actually like doing anything nuts.
Yeah, it's nothing that's like unexplained crazy. It's just kind of what M. Night Shyamalan thinks is crazy, I guess.
But not violent in any way.
Well, up until this point, the girl, she runs up into the bedroom. And
the grandpa grabs her and drags her up there, and he says, like, we're all gonna die tonight. But she
That's
still
what
has the camera in her hands.
she
So
still
she's
has the
being dragged up the
camera.
stairs.
She's filming herself being dragged up the stairs. She gets into
Yeah.
this bedroom, and you just see like, okay, old lady's
Grandma.
crawling around on the floor, and
She's not even crawling at that. She's just standing there staring at a wall. Like, she hasn't even started moving yet. It's not even that scary that she's moving. She's just.
I think at the beginning you see her crawling. I'm
Oh,
pretty
okay.
sure.
So she crawls towards them because she's staring in front of like a mirror or something,
At
and then
one point,
eventually
yeah.
she runs towards the camera, and her face gets really close, and that's
It's
supposed
very
to be scary.
disjointed. Yeah, because I remember I was like, oh, the old lady's in there. And you're like, wait, you don't see her yet. It's like, yeah, she's crawling on the ground. And you're like, oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay, yeah. So she might scuttle like along the ground
Yeah,
to
she
get to that
scuttled
corner.
on the ground.
She was
But
just
it
waiting
wasn't
for her to come into the room.
It wasn't a scary scuttle. It was just a strange scuttle. And I realized, too, they sped up the footage in a lot of the shots.
No.
Like, when they were in the basement, because especially when she's, like, reaching in to grab stuff from this garbage bin, I don't know, where the dead grandparents were, it was sped up because the frame count was really fucked up. Like, it was just, like, very quick, and it was weird. It was super unnecessary. Like, why are you... And they would slow it down on areas where you would notice it, I noticed. I was like, Those are really cheap editing tricks to change. I don't know why you would even do that.
It looks cool and creepy if Grandmama is possessed by a demon and she's like, phasing in and out of reality. Like, demons are always like jerking their heads and like skipping frames when they're looking around. Like, that's scary because you're like, oh, it's otherworldly.
Exactly.
But when it's done with just a normal person, it's like, oh, that's lazy.
Exactly. Like, why are you doing this? I don't really fully understand. So she's in this bedroom, and this old lady is kind of doing weird shit and kind of attacking.
This is where we get the beautiful payoff of that 2.5-minute mirror scene where she talked about she couldn't look in the mirror. She overcomes it. She looks in the mirror with the camera, and then she can see into the mirror. And then Grandmama smashes her face into the mirror over and over again. She grabs a giant piece of glass.
And just stabs Grandmama.
I rewatched that part because it's so confusing because the camera, again, like, it's so unfocused at that point. Like, they're just spinning in the bed, but she's still holding it. Also, before that, there's a scene where she's trying to open the door, and she's holding the camera looking at the lock, and she's only trying to open the door with one hand. I'm like, that looks so uncomfortable.
She hits the door with the camera.
Oh, God.
She breaks the doorknob off with the camera, and I'm like, why?
Well, the camera's
Get
so mighty.
something else.
Pretty sure that just break your camera over the doorknob, but, no, it's an old house. But, when they're tussling in the bed, at one point, the grandma's, like, face is burrowed, like, in her neck, and it kind of looks like she's making a bunch of, like, sniffing kind of drooly noises, like, kind of like a pig or a dog or something, and it kind of looks like she's sucking on her neck, and then she just, like, puts her face over her face, and then she just stabs her, and then barfs blood on her face, and that's it. Like, at no point is she... It looks like maybe, possibly, she had her hands on her neck, but you don't even clearly see her choking her at any point. Yeah. So it doesn't look like she's actually doing anything, but just making weird noises, and they're both under the covers together, which makes it even weirder and harder to see. So it's like, again, I can see that being tense because they're isolated, but she's not trying to hurt her, really, that I can tell. She's just being crazy again. But I guess she hit her into a mirror. But it would be fine if she bit the side of her face or something. That'd be sick. She was like this crazy psycho, and she like bit into her cheek, like ripped out a piece. Like, the daughter has like a big patch and like bleeding all over. And you had a white sheet. That white sheet doesn't turn fucking red at all. It's just like the lightest bit of red. You got a white sheet, you're shot, you turn that shit red in a horror movie. Get that thing covered in blood. Wasted.
Oh, God.
But then we get to my personal
your personal favorite. I was trying to figure out what your favorite part was, because you were just like, oh, this is the part. I'm like, what? With the old lady? Like, getting stabbed?
I know, it keeps cutting back and forth too much.
Yeah.
I forgot that it cut back and forth so much. But
we get to Tyler, and it was established kind of early on that he's like a clean freak, And
it's also through his amazing football monologue where he talks about freezing, and he froze and he couldn't tackle the guy, and he let the team down and they lost the game. It wasn't even the big game. It was just a game that they lost because he froze up.
Yep.
It was so sad. He
Was it
freezes
to
up
do with?
again.
Oh yeah, he freezes up again and he can't
In
move.
the weirdest way, because the grandpa's like, I'm putting a magic spell on you, and he boops him in the forehead, and apparently that
He's just
scares
like,
him so deeply that he doesn't. Like,
oh shit! And Grandpa,
Very
he
aptly.
grabs some poopy
Okay.
diapers.
I do have to talk about the editing for this section too, because I rewatched it just to re-familiarize myself with it. And we discussed all of the grandma stuff together, but those scenes are intercut with the grandpa fighting the son. And it starts with when the kid gets frozen, the grandpa walks. It's like a big shot of the entire kitchen, and the kid's right at the front of the camera, and then the grandpa walks all the way to the back. And then he walks behind like the island, and he just starts undoing his belt, and you can see him pulling down his pants, and it cuts on that. It's like, holy shit,
so
it looks like he's gonna rape him.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? It's like, why would you cut on the part where he's pulling his pants down? You know what he's gonna do? And then it just cuts back, and he's like, has his pants off, and just pulls out this big old dirty diaper, and then places it on the counter, and just puts his pants back on. You're like, oh, thank God, that was the real terror. I thought that kid was gonna get raped. Instead, he gets a dirty diaper, full brown loaded dirty diaper. He's like, I heard you have germ problems. He just goes, boop. Like, not even violently. He's just like,
doop.
I heard you have germ problems. And when, I guess, the kid has this diaper on his face the entire time that the sister's fighting upstairs, until she comes downstairs and attacks the grandpa, he still has his dirty diaper on his face, just hanging out on his face. And then when he finally gains the courage to do something, he takes the dirty diaper off his face, and he has no shit on his face. His face is perfectly clean. He had this fully loaded brown burrito just hanging out on his face for like 20 minutes, and no residual problems. Also, they used like comedy diarrhea sounds when they're playing Yahtzee to show that the grandpa pooped his pants. It goes like,
yeah,
like that really builds your tension in horror movies when you have poopy sound effects. It's like, ooh. Comedy, and then
comedy.
Oh God! And here's more comedy for you at the end. The kid, when he finally snaps out of his poopy haze, he then attacks the grandpa, but starts screaming football commands at him, like tackle, grab around the waist. And again, I've played football, so he is actually saying actual football techniques that a coach would teach you. But I don't know why you would ever think about it in this moment when you have old people shit on your face and your sister's getting beaten to death by an elderly crazy person. Like, why would he start saying like, rush the passer, make sure you hold the line, it's like tackle at the waist, just like, what the fuck is happening? It's like, this kid's gonna be committed, and then when he gets home, he's perfectly fine. He makes a rap about having a dirty diaper on his face for 30 minutes, and then he raps about elderly diaper names.
Yeah.
God damn. Yeah,
nice.
I just can't. Like, what the hell? How is that? Oh yeah, then you find. Huh? Then Catherine Hahn comes and like they save the day. I think. How does he kill him?
He attacks he does. He kills the grandpa by shutting his head over and over in the fridge door.
It's not even the stove.
No, it's the fridge door.
Why would he do the fucking stove?
And I'm pretty sure he killed him. Like, I'm pretty sure he's dead. Yeah.
Both the kids are fine with that, though. Murder's cool.
That's no big deal. And so, yeah, the mom comes, saves them, and then at the end we get...
And they play the cheesy music that the girl talked about at the beginning of the movie is played at the end. I'm like, oh, M. Night, I see what you did there. Oh.
The full circle moment.
Wow.
With no real emotional payoff, but that's okay.
No, absolutely none. It sounds like the ending to an episode of Always Sunny. The gang gets attacked by the elderly. Like that's I'm pretty sure that's the song they use.
Yep. And yeah, so then at the end, Becca interviews the mom and asks why she stopped talking to her parents, and basically they just got into an argument where she hit the mom and then the dad hit the daughter, and the moral of the story is don't hold on to anger.
Yeah, that's what she says in her awesome
and it's
Sesame
a big
Street.
Emotional moment.
Don't hold on to your anger. And then she says, you know what, sweetie? I didn't need the elixir because I already had it. You don't hold on to that anger.
You don't hold on to that anger. And then it ends.
Oh, it's like
and T Diamond, Tyler's rap name is T Diamond. Stylus. He raps over the credits. And
about the movie. But if you'll notice, the daughter is very vainly staring at herself in a mirror, applying makeup to her lips the entire time. Because she can look in mirrors now.
Wow.
She can just stand there while her, like, what elderly sister would sit there while her younger brother rapped?
Oh, man.
I wouldn't have time for that shit. Especially how bad it is. Oh, it's... Yeah, he actually says in the rap that the diaper was on his face for 30 minutes. So, like, that's a long time to have it. Yeah, he's like, I had a diaper on my face for 30 minutes. Depends on blah, blah, blah. Yeah, don't get poo in your mouth.
Lovely. So that's The Visit. That's that movie. And now we can talk about the other movies that were more scary. And talk about why this one wasn't, even though I'm pretty sure we've already ranted thoroughly about the things we didn't like about it. Because it's really hard to not talk about those things while we're going through it, which I guess is kind of the point of this podcast. It's very free-flowing.
Yeah, it's to get a natural, raw reaction.
Yeah, raw reaction. Yeah, so I would say, I guess we can go over like the first two we watched. So the first one we watched was X.
Yeah, that one was very heavy in the gore violence. The violence.
I was surprised how gory that one was, and I felt like I enjoyed the pacing of this movie the most.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. It is
because the Taking of Deborah Logan, I never felt comfortable.
Yeah, that movie just goes.
It's good, but it is not a movie where you feel good in any moment. And like, you don't necessarily feel good in X, but it is a little bit more of like a lighter feel because it's
supposed to be campy. It's supposed to be campy.
It's campy, yeah, right.
It's not taking itself seriously. Like it wants to be trashy on purpose, and it knows that it's trashy and it's having fun with it.
Which I appreciate. It's a more fun, kind of traditional pacing, I would say, of a movie, where it's like it starts lighter and then it builds and then it's just like, okay, here you go. Here's all the shit.
Yeah. And they actually have jokes in the movie, so it could be a bit of a comedy. They actually have funny points.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would say the pacing in that one was good. I would say it was very watchable in that sense.
I would say the ending to that is probably the most similar to The Visit in how you can kind of compare how you can have these two elderly people facing off against these two young people and still have it being respectful, and the elderly people are scary, but then right at the end they kind of take the piss out of these elderly people because these elderly people have murdered so many people throughout the movie. At this point you're okay with them dying, and they both die in comical ways where the elderly guy shoots one woman with a shotgun, and then when the woman isn't quite dead and has a last death grasp, he gets so scared he has a heart attack and dies. And then Pearl picks up the shotgun, and she weighs like 50 pounds at most, and when she fires that fucker, it just blasts her out the front door, and she shatters her hip. Like, my hip!
It's so good, and it's so
hilarious.
Perfect that happens because it's it feels very I don't know. It doesn't feel too like it's definitely cartoony in a weird way, but it's still grounded in that it makes sense that this little old lady is not going to be able to really shoot a shotgun.
And she's holding it so improperly too, like it's at
She
her
really
waist
is.
level. And
And
they
one,
talk about the dude's heart all the time because they can't have like it's an ongoing
yes,
thing throughout the movies.
like
The guy keeps saying, "I can't have sex with you, Pearl. My heart can't take it."
it's like that is set up. If he just had a
Yeah.
heart attack, you would still believe it, but this makes sense, and you full-heartedly believe that this would happen to this man, as opposed to like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I guess he just died from a heart attack.
And
And
he just had sex before he fights her, so his heart's already weakened. So all the layers.
it all works. It all
Someone
works.
thought
Yeah.
about it.
I would say like I had a very hard time with the gore in that movie, with the eyeball gore and the finger gore.
Oh yeah, that lady gets her fingers wrecked. Great.
Oh, I hate that. So like it's harder
Fun
to
crocodile.
watch, but it's a well-made movie. And
Yeah.
it is done on a budget. Like this movie, I'm pretty sure cost way less than what the M. Night Shyamalan movie cost, because it's a M. Night Shyamalan movie. But like it looked more expensive than
It
M.
looked
Night's.
beautiful. It looked
Because M.
amazing, just
Night's
so well done.
M. Night's didn't look expensive in any way.
So
It
bland.
looked really bland.
Like the color palette was just pale, like beige.
There was like no real color palette to it, really. Like it could have. There's just so much potential in this movie, in a
like
way.
the lighting didn't change in
But,
any
like,
way at the end. Like they didn't even knock over like a lamp or anything. Like it was either nighttime or fully lit in The Visit. Like there wasn't
Yeah.
any part where like a tussle could have changed the lighting believably, or a person falls into a light switch and turns off a light. And at least add some lighting contrast, and then you can actually set up nice lighting so it looks tense, not like you're just fighting in grandma's kitchen.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
I felt
exactly what
like
happened.
the lighting in. I'm distracted by the cat on your bed.
I was like, oh, Fluffington right there.
Fluffington.
Oh, there we go. It's a nice counterpoint to all the horror.
Yeah, but I
Well,
felt like the lighting in X was really nice. Like it fit the mood
Yeah.
very well, and he used cinematography to tell the story of the shot, like we were talking about with the stabbing of the director dude, where his blood got on the headlights of the vehicle, and the blood tainted the light to be red in this really manic stabbing scene. Like
Yeah,
that's a really interesting creative way to get something kind like scary, but in like a fun way, I guess. And
Yeah.
like there's just none of that in The Visit. And like I'm trying to think of the way that they paced stuff in that movie that made it so masterful, because I think one of the best examples of that was when it starts ramping up. So like the beginning, there are a lot of long shots. So there's a lot of long shots with no like payoff, I guess, where it's like you
establishing
see
scenes and
exactly, they're establishing
wide shots.
but there's tension. So like that shot where the girl is
Well, the
swimming.
first scene's a crime scene, let alone.
Well, yes, that's true. That is establishing. That is like the main establishing of the whole movie.
That establishes.
That establishes. But
Yeah.
there's a shot where the girl is swimming through the lake, and you notice that there's a crocodile, and that is a very long shot, long sequence of her just casually getting out of this lake as she's almost murdered by this crocodile. So it's like nothing happens, but you are very effectively anxious for these characters at this point.
Yeah, because he does a good job of cutting back to like a tight shot of her face swimming in the water, wide shot from above where you could see her body and then this crocodile's body slowly gaining, and it keeps cutting between the two. So and then every time it cuts, it's getting closer. It kind of jump cuts a little bit to being closer to her.
But the wide shots are just long enough where you're like, what the fuck? Because it's not like they're not quick shots. Like maybe the close-up shots are fairly quick, but the long shots aren't, and that's what like really like gets you anxious and like going.
Just what you said about timing and pacing and animation and how changing the timing really did, because tight shot, intense, wide shot, it's like it's more intense because it's long and you're just sitting on this crocodile and you're like, that is its own type of tension. And then she's swimming and the tension's there because you don't know how close a crocodile is now, and she could get bitten all of a sudden. Just all of a sudden her face will disappear, but it never happens. But at the same time, that is the setup for a later payoff, and the scene is actually shot well enough that it had its own level of tension. Because, you know what's scary? Almost getting eaten by a fucking crocodile in a lake. I wouldn't want that to happen to me, but having an old lady to tell me to stick my head in a turned off oven to clean it 2 times, not as scary.
Not as scary. And that wasn't set up for anything.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that moment, and then so there's a series of those types of moments where they're long shots of weird shit happening, or you'll see like a shot of the granny that's like slowly brushing her hair in front of the mirror, and it kind of represents.
Grandma looks really scary too. Like she looks really
pretty
fucked
rough
up and old compared to.
But it's not.
Like
it's not just a creepy scene of her brushing her hair. Like it that in itself is creepy, but it does have a meaning because she is grieving the loss of her youth by looking at all these young beautiful people. So she is looking at herself brushing her hair, and you as an audience member are kind of just like, huh, okay, it makes sense for her character. It adds to what her drive in the movie is for murdering them. It's like there's a point to it. It's not just, oh, creepy lady brushing hair.
Well, and they don't like make her a joke where it's like she's like out of her own head or something. Like, yeah, she's a little old white lady, but at the same time, she's very much with it. She seems very fragile, but at the same time, she never shows like, you know, cognitive problems, or she does like goofy elderly mistakes. Like, she is as threatening as a little old lady can be. She is quite threatening through the movie. Once she starts murdering people, you're like, holy shit, this little woman's going through them pretty hard. Like, and it's believable how she kills them. She doesn't like overpower anybody. She doesn't get in like a physical, because again, it's stupid when you see a young person just like literally wrestling with an elderly person. It's like, okay, well, I know the elderly person's going to get the shit kicked out of them. At least they should, because they're old. Elderly people's bones are literally more brittle than young people.
They are, yeah. They gotta take calcium pills.
Right.
And there's another shot that I still remember, and this was set up pretty well with, so it's like one of the guys is in a barn and he's looking for another character that wasn't around in their bed. So he's looking around for this other character, and it's in the middle of the night, so this barn is very dimly lit. It's like got blue light because it's the middle of the night, and he's sort of like wide shots of him looking around. He's looking in areas, and then you can kind of see a shadow of like the grandma that's just kind of like scuttling, but you just see like a shadow of her like scuttling in the background. It's kind of funny, but it is setting up that she's there without it being super obvious. And then there's a shot of him looking through those 2 holes in the wall, and then you see like the pitchfork on the other side get shoved into the holes, and they go into his eyeballs. But then he immediately cuts to another scene.
Yeah,
and something else happens, just long enough for you to forget, and then he cuts back, and you see the pitchfork pull the eyes out of the dude's head, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, it got such a physical reaction out of me because I could not look away. I fucking hated it, but it worked. It was effective.
It didn't give you time. It was just like Indiana Jones all over again.
It was Indiana Jones.
It happened again to you.
It's like a little kid again walking downstairs and seeing the guy's face melt.
He went right back to 8-year-old Emma, terrified in that basement. You never left that basement, Emma.
I never left.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's one of those movies where it's so effective at making you upset during the movie, and just like the kills and stuff that afterwards, it's like, at least for me, I want to know, like, I'm like, why did that make me feel so different and more uncomfortable than watching like another movie that has arguably more gore in it. But it's like what you said, where he's like able to use these camera tricks that when you stop and think about it, you're like, oh shit, that is actually really clever, because he understands that like a normal horror movie would just show it right away. So it's like he is understanding these tricks. So when you watch it, it's like it's a lot. It feels fresher if you've watched a lot of like horror movies, especially just kind of like gore movies. Like this could be a really bad movie easily with the script.
Yeah.
Like if you tell someone it's about a bunch of people making a porno on like an elderly person's estate, they get mad and murder all of them. Like that sounds pretty cheesy, and it is. But Ty West is able to elevate it because he is an amazing like writer, director, editor. The dude does everything for his movies. So
because he can do
two
all
good
of
examples of people owning their movies and having very different outcomes.
Oh, maybe they could work together. I wonder how that would go.
Oh my god, I can't even. I imagine like M. Night just, I don't know, like he is.
I don't know what their personalities are like. I only know M. Night from that Norm Macdonald interview on his TV show.
He seems like a perfectly nice guy. I'm sure he's a really nice
seems lovely.
Yeah.
He seems very humble and like just kind of an awkward, shy
guy. You have
guy.
to be at this point.
Oh, poor guy. Yeah.
That guy got humbled hard. I feel bad for him as a person. His movies kind of suck, but it's like
I feel bad for him as a person too, because I think I don't know. Who knows? I don't.
You know, at the end of the day, M. Night can make a fucking better movie than me, and I've never made one, so he can just say that to me at any point and be like, well, I've made many movies.
It's so easy to critique.
True.
It's so easy to critique these movies, and we're just not even. Yeah. We don't even make our own movies, so.
We're what they call the armchair quarterbacks.
Yes.
We don't watch sports and yell at a TV, though. We watch horror movies and yell at directors.
Much better.
Yes, so it's a different, more pretentious style of dickery, but still right up there with someone yelling at NFL players on Sunday.
Still
no different, just a nerdy version.
That's so true.
Yeah, bigger nerds. So at any point, if anyone feels bad about anything we say, realize that we are just talking about shit that they made. That we have not.
We are just talking about it because we love movies, and we love talking about it, and it's
talking
interesting
about bad movies
subject
is
matter.
sometimes even better.
Yeah. Then the next, I guess we can get into the next movie, which is The Taking of Deborah Logan. Deborah Logan. That pronunciation annoyed the hell out of me. Logan.
Oh God, I'm pretentious myself.
Deborah Logan. So that movie is just uncomfortable and gross.
An old-fashioned scare fest.
It's just a lot, but again, they build their tension so fucking well, and this is the one that reminded me more of Resident Evil because of just the way the house felt when they were going up into the attic. It just felt like there were some similar scenes of people walking up into the attic in Resident Evil 7, and it just is a lot of suspense and creepiness where you're kind of yelling at your TV like, don't go up there, leave,
well,
stop
the house is so much better used as a character as well. Like they don't shoot it like it's just, every normal person's house. Like they have her rummaging around in the garden all the time. Like they don't have her just have a giant pile of poopy diapers in her attic or something. They have like this one spot that she's obsessed with in her garden, and she's like ranting about her spade, and then she's like eating dirt and puking it up in the kitchen, and she's like the first night she's just standing in a window and just fucking tears her throat off. And so there's like a lot more escalation, while the pacing of like the visit, the first one's the puking, then the next one she's naked, but then the third one she's just crawling around on the floor fully dressed. So you actually de-escalate the horror, because Deborah Logan, they understood you only want to have her like completely naked once, like, and make sure you use it effectively, and they do, because throughout the movie she's kind of shedding her clothes but never gets fully undressed. And again, it actually plays into the plot of the movie as to why she's doing this and to why all of these things she's doing, there's a reason behind it. And then when she finally does get naked, she's fucking fully demon and she's just stabbing her like console in the attic over and over again. And,
Yeah.
you know, it can be kind of silly, but at least it helps build the story because that introduces the mystery of why she's so obsessed with like that number and then why she is the way she is, and it pushes the story forward. And each nighttime pushes the story forward well, I would say, because they always end up going to the hospital, learning more about her illness. So there's not a lot of sets, but at the same time they bounce back and forth enough times consistently that it helps break up the monotony. But like The Visit, they're at that house for 90% of that movie, and they don't. It's a massive estate. They don't really use it for anything. They're like, at one point she's staring at a well. They mention a family of foxes they're gonna miss, so they better walk faster down the snowy path. Like, that's not scary. It's not like hands sticking
it's
out of the
just
ground.
really not utilized very much, and it's I don't know. It's
and the fact
just,
they're both handy-cam movies, it kind of lends itself to easy comparison as well.
It is a good
they do a lot
comparison.
of they stay away from the Blair Witch shot, which is the right camera right in your face. Everything is so spooky. Like, it's fine in the Blair Witch. You're the first one to do it. You can do it. You can do whatever you want. But if you do it again, you're just a hack. You're just stealing from someone else more creative than you.
And when they did it in the Blair Witch Project, it's like she was confessing to the camera, you know?
There was a purpose. She doesn't just run at it and be like, "Oh, I'm scared."
No, like she's terrified,
it's like her last
sitting
moment
under a tree, just talking to the camera, and then shit happens and the camera's already there, and then she's just like, oh, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, that makes sense. But here, no, it's not useful. They don't really do that in the Taking of Deborah Logan. The only time they kind of do that is when they're first walking into the house and they're kind of like, but one person's just, but there's a team of people, so it's like one person is filming the other, you know? So
it makes more sense when there's more people to film it and they have like a whole documentary crew. It makes more sense why they'd be filming it at night, because they want to document all of her like unstable moments. So it's actually something they want to record.
Yeah. They've thought through the weird plot holes that The Visit did not. And it's... Yeah. If you've seen The Visit and you want to see a better version of The Visit, watch The Taking of Deborah Logan.
Yes.
That has a weird fucking plot twist, and there's weird shit in this movie, but
fucking M. Night should be proud of the end of that movie. Holy crap. He should be jealous of that plot twist.
And they made it work.
I was very impressed by how they pulled that off. It's like, it's just like, holy shit.
All right.
It works. That really escalates, but it makes sense. It still all fucking makes sense. Like, as crazy as it gets, it's fine as long as you explain everything that's happening so that the audience can be like, oh yeah, this is pretty weird and fucked up, but I know why it's weird and fucked up at least. Like, this makes sense to me. It's not like you're just watching old people walk around a yard. Like, and then I thought about in The Visit, like, the actual footage that she got for her documentary is going to make for the worst documentary ever put on film. She just has a bunch of establishing shots of elderly people doing things around the yard, being in the kitchen, freaking out a few times on camera, and then 2 interviews with the kids. And they never talk about the parents because the grandma just starts like slapping her head like a bongo drum when she starts talking about it. I would also say the freakouts between the two are very different. Like, Deborah, that actor, she put it all on the line for her freakouts. Like, she goes nuts compared to the other elderly lady.
There's a lot of parallel footage, I feel like, between those movies. It's really interesting to watch them one after another because, their freakout scenes, it's like one feels comedic and one feels harrowing, like terrifying, because it's like she's freaking out at a certain point because she's losing her mind and she's aware that she's losing her mind. And the other one is just going crazy because that's what she is, apparently.
Yeah, and also there's a very visible decline to Deborah's health over the course of the movie as well.
Yeah.
Where with this woman, it's just
no.
She kind of just gets crazy near the end, and she has this one really stupid part when she's in the rocking chair, staring at the wall, giggling like an idiot, and she's she has to keep the darky warkies out of her head or something. It's the only time in the movie that it's used, and I feel like that might have been like M. Night Shyamalan wanted to use that idea for one of his stupid M. Night Shyamalan ideas, where he always uses weird words, like in that Lady Underwater movie, Lady Under the Water, or the Lake. That movie has the most insane dialogue, and that reminded me of it. Where I'm like, what kind of elderly person would say I have the YBYBs or the Blacky Wackies?
I don't know what
that's
he
not
said.
how a mentally unstable person would talk. Maybe a 4-year-old, but
yeah.
And it's only said in that one scene, and then she just tries to choke herself with her scarf, and then that's the end of the scene. I guess there's more harm to herself than anything else.
Yeah.
It just doesn't really play well.
It's not good. It's not good. But it's definitely interesting to compare those three movies. I think you played them in a good order because the first one was a good, it was definitely the most gory, but it was a good introduction to it. And then the filming techniques between The Visit and Deborah were good to compare. So it was an interesting watch. So
I think I like X the best as well. So I also put that. Although Taking of Deborah Logan's a much different movie, so they're kind of harder to compare. I'd say they're both entertaining depending on what you want to watch.
Yeah.
But I'd say X was probably my favorite out of the three as well. Good old Ty West, he's a solid filmmaker. That guy.
I think I just appreciated it. I appreciated it the most, and it was the most fun to watch despite being grossed out. But I really enjoyed the 70s campiness of it. So it was nice. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Pearl, the prequel. It's coming out soon.
Boy.
It's coming out in a few months, so get ready for our review of Pearl. My gosh, it could be the first movie we watch that's actually in theaters.
Oh my
Jesus Christ.
That'll be weird. I'm gonna have to try to get
you're gonna have to watch it in theaters by yourself.
Some poor soul to come with me.
I just thought of that as the whole point is that we watch them together so you're not as scared. But if we watch movies in theaters, you'll definitely have to go by yourself.
I'll have to go by
myself. Get a laptop and pop it open.
Just to film my reaction.
Just watch it through the crappy laptop camera.
God.
It'll be easier for you to process.
Oh Lord. Well, I've got some trading to do up until that point, so...
Well, yeah, don't worry, because now that we're out of our elderly trilogy, our next, I think our next collection of movies are one of my personal favorite, I guess it's not really a genre as much as a part of the world, but we're going to be focusing on Asian horror.
Oh boy.
It's very different from Western horror, I'd say. They have a lot more. It's a different feel. It's they got different weird spooky monsters that aren't in any of our religions, so they got some pretty creepy monsters and spirits and stuff. And I find it just they're just shot so differently, and the stories themselves are generally told very differently than what a Western horror movie is. So I really enjoy your Asian horror movies. So we're going to be indulging we're going to be going classy with subtitles. Oh yeah.
And I really have to be watching it then.
Exactly. You have to really pay attention to it. It makes it even worse.
Great. Okay.
So I haven't quite figured out the order of watching them yet, but I think they'll be a little less forgiving on you than the elderly movie. I'm excited to see your reactions.
Oh no. Okay. Well, let's see. stay tuned
something for
because
you to
we're
mull
watching some more gory movies. It's been a little chill lately, so it's time.
Too chill. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Let's get
Okay.
this normal episode is pretty almost a casual creeps, I would say.
I know this one is like a casual creeps.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
Easily.
that is it for our old person trilogy. So
Thank you for
thanks.
listening, and hopefully you go out and watch some spooky elderly people because they're great at horror too.
Yeah, give them some horror love.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye. I don't want to be here anymore.